RLCraft Insane Mode. No human in their right mind would want to attempt this, so I did it. This mod pack features new bosses, crazy new battle towers, an ender dragon from the deepest depths of the end, and a new dimension. And we start with 5 hearts. This means if we take 1 heart of damage on our body or our head, we die, and the world is deleted. Can we survive these next 100 days? Let's find out. Also subscribe, or this dude will be under your bed. Day 1. I knew with only 1 heart on each of my limbs, I was easy pickings for anything that wanted to kill me. So I needed to find stuff, and I needed to find it fast. I saw this really cool tower thing, and then I thought to myself, I should probably not go near that or I'm gonna die. So then I ran off and I found this shack. I found some basic tools in there, enough to get me started. And then I went around slaying chickens, because chickens are the most essential part of RLCraft. You want a flying mount early in the game because it's essential to stay off the ground where everything can shoot you when you have no armor, especially when you only have 1 heart. So I crafted my avian treats and I went on my search for a rock. Rocks only spawn at nighttime and they only spawn in forest biomes. So I climbed to the top of a tree, found my first rock, tamed him, and slept the night off. Day 2, I began the day by looking for more dungeons to loot. I knew with the new mods they added in, there'd be a lot more loot and a lot more dungeons to find. I started out the day by finding a normal battle tower. I fishing rodded the golem, then attacked him with a bow and arrow. This makes him go flying off and lets you loot the top chest. While flying around, I found another one of these new battle towers with the Guardian Eva on it. I decided to cheese the tower and just grab the top chest. The loot was absolutely amazing. Day 3, I knew if I wanted to fight a dragon soon, I needed more hearts. I started out the day looking for more things to loot. I found this epic village, but then started taking tick damage because it was cold outside. I then realized I only had 1 heart and I should probably run away before I die. I spent the rest of the day looking for battle towers to loot and to take everything they had for my own. Day 4, I knew if I wanted to take on these insane bosses I added to the game, I needed to get there quick if I wanted to do it within 100 days. So I crafted a staff of summoning. This was for a new technique I wanted to try for the looting. I spent the day adventuring. I found some good books inside of this library in a village. One of them was mending. I then flew over this tower. This tower is such a lackluster thing. It should be way cooler and it's just not. The chest's so horrible and it's just sad. While flying through the desert, I found this epic temple, but I knew there was a lot of danger that awaited me inside, and I just didn't have enough hearts to take anything on yet. Day 5, I wanted to absolutely destroy this game, so I spawned some Aegises with my new staff of summoning, and I held my axe. The Aegises reflect the damage of the item that you're holding, so holding an axe attributes more damage, and they were able to take care of this battle golem with ease. I finally crafted my first set of diamond armor after procrastinating it for a while. You don't really need it while you're flying around, but I figured I should be safe than sorry. I finished off the day by looting some more towers. I knew the dragon was coming and he was coming soon, so I had to be ready. Day 6, I finished looting up the tower that I'd taken down on day 5, and then I moved on. I found an underwater house, and I immediately jumped off my rock without thinking that there was a sea dragon only a few blocks ahead of me. I quickly broke in, and thankfully was safe. While exploring, I found this multicolored dungeon. I swear a 5-year-old is using crayons in this world. I spent some more time yeeting some golems off with my Aegises, and then I found another library and began splashing experience points on myself to flex on the villagers. Day 7, I wanted one of the new battle towers loot and I wanted it now, so I made a diamond pickaxe and then realized I didn't have enough experience to be able to use the diamond pickaxe, so I spent the rest of the day looting battle towers to gain some more experience so I could open up one of these dungeon towers as all the chests were hidden behind obsidian. Day 8, with 5 hearts I decided it would be a great idea to take on one of these dungeons, so I spent the first part of the day killing some more battle towers to get enough experience to use my diamond pickaxe. I was ready. I went to the closest battle tower, and then I realized the boss wasn't there, but that did not make this tower a cakewalk. As I'd seen before, the bottom layers of this tower held anywhere from 20 to 35 spawners. You heard me right, 20 to 35 spawners. So to protect myself, I clogged up both entrance points before I tried taking the chest out behind the obsidian. When I was finally able to take the chest out, it had epic loot in it, and I knew these towers were going to be golden. I knew from this point on, I was going to be unstoppable. Day 9, I began the day by looting another one of these new towers. While I was looking around for more things to loot, I saw an insane Lykanite dungeon. I knew what creatures dwelled behind there, and I was not looking forward to facing them. I went on with looting for the rest of the day and found another battle tower. This one had a tome in it. The tome contains 30 XP and is great for leveling up your skills. I knew the dragon was soon, and I knew I had to be ready. The end of the day brought a blood moon. A blood moon is where you cannot sleep, mobs spawn more dangerous and in more quantities. So I spent the night raiding battle towers to get more epic loot to prepare for the dragon fight. Day 10, when I woke up, a horse's buttocks struck me in the face. It was a great way to start the day. I decided to put off fighting the dragon for a bit longer because I wanted to explore a new dimension. So I began preparing. I crafted hearts with all of my heart shards and started splashing experience points all over my face to prepare for the dangers that would lurk inside of this new dimension. I crafted the portal for the dimension, and then I jumped right in, ready to slay the monsters that would await me. Little did they know that I was the one they should fear. Upon entering the dimension, I hopped on my rock, and I began scouting to see what loot and bosses awaited me. The first loot I found was in this maze-like thing. Every time you hit the grass blocks, it causes you damage. Some dogs attacked me, but I took care of them with ease, and then some bugs attacked me. Not quite sure what they were thinking. While flying around, I noticed the top of a dragon lair. These are tier 6 dragons, and they will absolutely pummel me if I try and take them on now. But I'm going to mark it down for later, for when I come back to absolutely decimate them and take their eggs. While looking for more dungeons, I stumbled upon this absolutely massive mansion. I thought it was a normal mansion at first until I took a bigger look around and I realized how huge it was. When I went inside to see if I could see if there was any good loot, a witch caught me with poison. But before I left, I went inside this chest and I found 8 gas tiers. This means I can now craft regeneration rings, which were going to be insane for this early in the game. I barely survived the dungeon with my life, and I had to craft some golden apples to stay alive. I realized that before I wanted to take on the bosses inside this dimension, I wanted dragon armor, so I returned to the overworld and continued looting. I began day 12 by looting some more of these amazing towers and avoiding the bosses. I realized that this tower actually spawned Vexes. Had any of them hit me directly in the head, I probably would have died. I decided it was finally time to bunker down and start storing my loot. I found this cool house below a mountain and decided I would claim it as my own. I spent the rest of the day retrofitting the house and putting my stuff in chests and sorting them, and deciding on what would be the next move. Day 13, I began the day by looking through my battle tower book. This gives me a synopsis of every battle tower that's been added into the game. Some of these towers look insane. I wanted to try taking on one of the bosses and to see if I could defeat him. Later that day, I approached the knight, only to find when I got into the basement, multiple spawners. I quickly killed him and then ran away for my life. I knew the dragon fight was going to be soon and I needed some more enchanted books, so I went off the day and looted a little bit more. Day 14, I started off the day making myself more powerful. I added some more experience bottles, I leveled up some skills, and I made 2 regen rings. Regen rings are used with gas tiers and nether stars. Since I had found the gas tiers in that one mansion, and I had found nether stars from the battle tower, I was able to craft them. This was going to make me powerful. I knew by day 15 I wanted to fight the dragon. I didn't want to be a peasant and wait all the way until day 20 or something like that. So I spent the rest of the day doing the final preparations and collecting the final amount of loot before I would take on what used to be the beast of RLCraft. The sunset. The day before the first dragon fight in this 100 days. As I looked at the sun setting, I realized this could be my last evening, and I could die with this first dragon fight. But at least, it was a beautiful sunset. Day 15. It was time. So I prepared a bow, and I prepared a sword to go and fight the beast that was roaming my lands, and to take his blood and his scales to craft some of the most powerful armor and tools inside of the game. Dusk. I found the dragon I wanted, and I attacked with vengeance. I shot 20, 30 times with my bow, and I attacked him, and I tried to hang on with my life. Eventually, he fell, and I took his blood from him. Unfortunately, because I took his blood from him, I wasn't able to take any scales, so I had to go and find another dragon. It was quite anticlimactic. Day 16, I began the day by casually killing another dragon and taking his scales. I wanted to prepare to go back into that dimension and start taking on some insane bosses. I then recalled back home and used my experience to start crafting an armor set that would rival these bosses' damage, and I could take them down in this new dimension. I then hopped back in the portal and began my search for the Naga, the first boss I would take on. Day 17, I found the serpent. This would be the first of many bosses I needed to kill to dominate this dimension and to become their overlord. To kill the serpent, you can only hit it in the head. The more damage you do, the more of a tail it loses, till eventually you strike him down and you take his head. Day 18. I knew with the first boss out of the way, it was time to take on the Lich King. The Lich King resides at the top of a tower that he is the overlord of. On my way up, I found these mini spiders, which are quite cute, but I did slay because I hate spiders. I also found this secret room. There was no loot in it, but I broke the spawner and stole the experience points. Finally, I made it up to the top, and I faced the Lich King. You can only actually kill him by shooting his ender pearls back at him, similar to a ghast when a ghast shoots with a fireball. After a certain point in time, you'll disable his shields, and you'll be able to melee him. He spawns duplicates of himself to confuse you, and he also spawns zombies at the end to try and grasp for his life. But I took his life from him, and I beat the tower. Day 19 to 22. The next dungeon was a maze underground, filled with many floors and many different mobs that wanted to consume your soul. Upon entering the dungeon, I found a trap chest. I knew there would be some sort of damage done to me if I opened it, so I scouted around trying to see if I could find some redstone. But you can't actually break any blocks in here, so I just took a risk, opened it, grabbed the loot, and ran back, and sure enough, explosions followed. The boss of this dungeon is a Minotaur. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's a half-human, half-horse. In this case, it's more of like a half-goat and a half-mushroom, but you know what, we'll go with it. He wields an axe, and he's very, very hard to kill, and he's at the bottom of this dungeon, so I spent a long time trying to find him. I also found this weird creepy thing that attacked me. It didn't really like it. Finally, after what seemed forever, I found his lair. I broke through the fences, and he spawned, and the battle begun. It was a furious battle, but I took care of business, and I ended his life. I then looted his dungeon. There wasn't that much cool stuff in it, but I did find some cool mushroom stuff. It gave me no perks. I'm not exactly sure why this stuff exists, but it looked kind of cool. I also got his axe. It does pretty pitiful damage, but it doubles as an axe to chop down trees. So, I mean, not a complete failure. The next boss on the list didn't hide behind his subjects. Didn't even hide in the world for that matter. He hid under a giant mound of dirt. And when I approached him, well, he didn't spawn. He's supposed to spawn in there, but he didn't. So I had to go and find another one. Day 24. Whilst looking for the boss, I found one of these giant towers. For those of you who don't know, you can cheese this tower by doing what I call the 4 corners strategy. Simply take out the top tower first with the vexes, and then climb down on all 4 corners and delete the spawners. When I went in to try and take care of the mobs that were in there, I realized I did not have strong enough gear, but I was not going to let that stop me, so I just landed on top of all the areas with the chests, grabbed the loot, and made my way out of there without even taking damage. Day 25. I was still searching for the next boss. While searching for him, though, I found one of these 4-tower dungeons. These dungeons are amazing because the top loot has anything from mending to advanced protection to advanced power books. It is absolutely insane. Tomes of XP, 2 to 3 in a chest sometimes, so I quickly went in looting it. Later in the day, I found another one of the towers, and I looted it. I still could not find the next boss, though. At the end of the day, while flying around, I noticed a dragon lair for ice dragons. These are my favorite dragons inside of the game, so I made sure to mark it so I'd know where it is later when I was able to actually take it on. There was no... Day 26. I continued my quest looking for the next boss. Without looking for him, I stumbled upon another mansion. Mansions are great for enchanted books, so I immediately went in and I took all of their stuff. Day 27. I found the next boss. The 3-headed Hydra. I began attacking, only to realize that my bows did no damage, and I had to melee him. This is great, because the Hydra can one-shot you no matter what you're wearing, so at this point, the game might have been over, but you know what? We pulled it through, and we attacked, and attacked, until eventually we brought down the beast, and we stole his goods. Days 28 to 32. The next boss on the list was the Night Phantom. He resides... You guessed it, at the end of another maze. These mazes are incredibly complex, and generally have no way of really finding a good way around them, so I just aimlessly ran around, killing these dudes with spears that had no legs, and really enjoying myself and gathering pretty much no loot. But eventually, I found the Night Phantoms. Finally, after what seemed like forever, I found the boss room, and 6 of them spawned. I only needed to kill 1 to unlock the next dungeon, so I quickly disposed of him, and then made my way out. I ended off day 32 by flying around, searching for for the next dungeon to fight. Day 33. I decided I would do some retrofitting around the house. I discovered I had enemies upstairs that I wanted to eradicate. But before that, I decided to do a little design in the front door by placing some skulls for everybody to see, so that anybody who came over would know I would be about to take their head. I then introduced myself to my upstairs neighbors and began viciously attacking them until they had no more life left in them. When leaving my house to go explore, I found a Jengu. I quickly eradicated him. Not quite sure what he was thinking. Near the end of the day, I found this really cool floating chunk jungle thingy-mabobber. I decided I would assimilate all of the citizens and take it over for my own. Day 34. I began the day by looting some more battle towers nearby. I then decided sooner than later I should probably get a dragon egg so I can start hatching my dragon, and he can start growing up to become a big, massive beast. So I went and I attacked a tier 5 dragon. The dragon was very upset when I poked him with my Aegises, and he began breathing fire everywhere. But in the end, we were able to take him out. Unfortunately, he was a male dragon and he did not drop any eggs. Quite unfortunate, so we had to go and find some more to kill. I went back into the other dimension as I had a few dragons marked in there. Well, in there I found an Alpha Yeti. I didn't really know what he did, but I decided it would be a good idea to kill him and see what he dropped. Nothing that useful, though. Day 35. I attacked another tier 5 dragon. Unfortunately, it decided it would be a good idea to fly away instead of fight me. After chasing it for a while, I gave up and went in to find another dragon. Eventually, I found another dragon, and I began attacking it. Unfortunately, it was a green one, and I wasn't exactly excited to get a green dragon, but nonetheless, a dragon is a dragon. Once I gathered her egg, I traveled back to the mainland and waited for my new dragon to spawn. Day 36. As the amazing parent I am, my dragon hatched, and I didn't notice, and it began to wander off. Confused and bewildered, I looked around for my dragon, but I found him. No problem. No problem here. I spent the rest of the day starting to transfer my items from my old house to my new house, as I wanted everything in one place, as it was annoying going back and forth. I spent the rest of the day looking for some enchanted books to finish out my armor set before I could take on Modius and Rahavart. Days 37 and 38. I began day 37 by attacking Eustace. Eustace is a battle tower guardian. He's part of a new mod I added. The problem with Eustace is that if he touches you, well, you die, no matter what you're wearing. So, make sure to bring a bow with you, otherwise you will most likely be eradicated. I actually fell into the tower after defeating Eustace and was quickly like, oh, this is a horrible spot to be, and left the tower. I then decided I wanted more enchanted books from one of the roguelike dungeons, so I went right down to the nether floor, right into the room with all the chests, and I began smacking everyone around. Day 39. We added in a mod that would make the Ender Dragon a little bit more difficult, and before fighting Modius or Rahavart, I felt like I needed to kill him, so my next quest was to the end, and to fight the Ender Dragon. After finding the portal, I hopped right in, and began the battle. Unfortunately, I don't have the first half of the battle, I'm not quite sure what happened there, but I have the last half where we defeated the Ender Dragon, and we stole all of his experience points, and his egg, or her egg. Day 40. To fight Modius and Rahavart, you need to take on some Lykanite dungeons. The End Dimension is the easiest place to find them, so after killing the Ender Dragon, I began my questing. I found one, plunged right in, and began looking for the bosses. I was able to kill the first boss inside of this day, and steal all of his soul stones and his other loot. Day 41. I finished up the next floor, and I killed the Anarchical Hound for the second boss inside of the Lykanite dungeon. Day 42, I cleaned up the last boss inside of the dungeon, and then I realized, oh, I don't need to do the whole dungeon to kill these bosses, I can just fly to the top, mine right down, and slay the bosses right there. That's gonna save some time. I managed to kill 2 more bosses in a very quick amount of time, and steal their soul stones. I was this much closer to spawning Modius and Rahavart, and a new boss that I had never fought before. Day 43. After collecting all these soul stones that I needed, I headed back to the overworld and I began some more looting to get some more enchanted books. Day 44. I swung back to the new dimension as it was a bit easier to find loot there. While looking around, I found these giants that wielded these enormous weapons. I thought it would be cool if I could try and kill one and take their weapon. So I did. I definitely was not supposed to be allowed to do this yet, but I did it anyway and I stole their weapons. Unfortunately, they don't do an immense amount of damage, but they look kind of wicked. Day 45 and 46, I began the prep work to fight as Modius and Rahavart. There's another boss that I want to fight as well, but I'm going to fight these guys first. So I began crafting my golden apples, the soul cubes required to spawn them, the soul keys, and getting everything in order before the biggest fight of the series yet. Before fighting Modius and Rahavart, there was another boss I wanted to fight. I'd never faced him before, and apparently if he touches you, you die instantly. But he cannot be spawned in the nether, I found out, so I decided to fight him later. Day 47 to 48. It was time to fight these two bosses. Roll the time lapse. Also, if you see me trying to zoom in on my FOV and stand there while I'm getting shot, that's because I'm taking screenshots for the thumbnail.
Feel free, and I just wanna be me. Yeah, I just wanna go so crazy. I just wanna be a freak. Yeah, I just wanna rise to the top. Yeah, I just wanna go reach the peak. So I've been really well focused on success. Hey, y'all will see. Yeah, you won't see that I will get it, cause I'm really focused, man. I make it with the rap and I just follow my path. I just follow my passion. To me, this is what's precious. Yeah, in my soul, man, I can feel it. So every single verse, man, I just gotta go and kill it, man. I gotta be the kid. I could be the guy taking you wild. I could be the villain. Good as a kid. Lately I'm painting my path on my way. Yeah, I got no time that I can waste. So I've been sitting in the space. Yeah, making runs every day. Man, you know that I go insane. Yeah, I hit you with a bullet to the brain. Let us stop work, cause we going insane. You don't know what I'm gonna do. You don't know what is next. And I'm loving the fact, truly it's making me blessed. Cause I work on my team, no snakes in the grass. And we have been trusting the wind because of the work that we did in the past. Because of the work that we did in the past. When we went to hours, you barely got breath. So I get the realm and we didn't finesse. So I got the feelings that we might be next. Cause when we go in, we win in the match. When we go in, we win in the match. So that's how we do, cause we be the best. We be the best, best. Yeah, we be the best. Whoa. Yeah, we be the best, best. We be the best. Hey, yeah, we be the best, best. Hey, we be the best. Yo, you wanna come on and test? Whoa, you want to see we the best? Hey, you don't see that we're the best here, so I suggest you never really come and test it. But otherwise, I will smack your face like Michael Jordan does with a ball in the basket. Oh damn kid, but you didn't expect it. You never really thought that this could just happen. But now really come on and we pull out with the action. Cause people defeat those they don't get it like.
Day 49, the final Lykanite boss. I can't exactly say his name, but it looks like that and he's quite scary. So the thing with this boss is that he's going to draw you in forcibly, and if he touches you, you will die instantly, regardless if you're wearing Prot Infinity or Prot 1. So you have to be a little bit cautious when fighting him. A tip that I learned is if you place a water bucket down and you go to the farthest point possible, he's still going to drag you towards him, but he'll eventually let you go, and you can run towards the edge again. Be patient with this guy, because if he does draw you in, and he touches you, you will die. Instantly. After an epic battle, I put him down, and I claimed victory over the Lykanite mod. But, this was just the beginning. There were much more powerful bosses yet to be fought in this extra modded RLCraft series. Let's get into that. Day 50. With the Lykanite bosses out of the way, I turned my attention to the bosses from the alternate dimension, and I began preparing to go and take them on. Day 51. I arrived in the alternate dimension, I got on my rock, and I began looking for the next dungeon to face the next boss. Day 52. I found the next boss's castle, and I began my invasion to take down the Ice Queen. Day 52. The tower was intricate. There were 4 different towers and you had to find the right one to find the Ice Queen, so I spent a lot of time exploring and collecting some of the unique items this dungeon had to offer. Day 54. I found some of the Queen's minions and I disposed of them. Thankfully they weren't too difficult, but they looked kind of freaky. Day 55. I somehow managed to take on all 4 towers without taking on the one with the Queen in it. So at the top of this tower I removed the loot and then went for the Queen's tower. Day 56. On my way up there, I found some new mobs. Not quite sure what that thing is, but I did not want it around me. It spawned all the blocks to glass, and it tried to make me fall into the abyss, but I took care of it before it could do that. Day 57. I finally found the Snow Queen. I enjoy going through all these dungeons thoroughly before I attack the boss to see what extra treasures might lie within. The Snow Queen is an intricate boss that does a decent amount of damage. To actually do damage to her, she needs to be on your level and you need to hit her on the head. Her ice blocks reflect damage, and you're not able to hit her while you're attacking them. But I eventually was able to take her down, and I stole her tower, which allowed me to move on to the next boss. Day 58, the Gas Tower. This menacing beast resides at the top of this intricate tower that's full of mazes, traps, and spawners that can ultimately lead you to your doom. So I made sure to be very careful while traversing this tower. Day 59. I decided for a little bit of an extra challenge I would use the sword I found in the Ice Queen's dungeon on some of these mobs. It wasn't quite as effective as mine, but it did the job still, and added a bit more difficulty to it. Day 60. I was still looting this tower. It had multiple towers and multiple iterations that you had to climb up. Rather than flying to the top, I decided I would take on the entire thing. There were different chests throughout it that had some different loot in it. Mainly it was just unique loot, it wasn't anything too powerful, but I wanted to grab it all up for a shrine I could make later. Day 61. I arrived at the top of the tower, ready to take on the You Are Gassed. I shot him with the bow that I received from the Ice Queen's dungeon and began to take him down. But he threw me off of the tower and I barely survived. So I traveled back up on my rock and then I attacked him again until ultimately I defeated him and I stole his tears. It's quite an odd item, but I stole them anyway. Day 62. I began preparing for the final dungeon inside of this dimension. The Palace. To unlock the palace, you need a special item that you can only find in troll caves. So I immersed myself inside of the cave and started searching for the item. The Lamp of Cinders. This would allow me to enter the palace and traverse the terrain to get there to actually defeat the final boss inside of this dimension. Day 63. I spent the day traversing through the actual palace itself. This was a gorgeous place. I really wish I could live in it, but it was just not functional enough for that. Day 64. While traversing through the actual palace, I found these runes on the walls. I wonder what civilization left these behind. Day 65. I encountered some unique mobs, but still looking for that main palisade that I would find the boss in. Day 66. I found the final boss room, but it wasn't unlocked, so I went questing to see if I could find a way to unlock it. Day 67. After I heard thumping around the palace, I went to investigate, and I found giants residing inside. I took them on, hoping they would unlock the final chamber to bring down the palace that had held many nightmares inside of it for me to beat the dimension. Day 68. It was time to take on the final boss of the dimension. As he unleashed itself, it was a golem. It was a little gnome golem guy. I attacked and I killed him. I was expecting a 5-headed dragon or a giant man with a sword or a beast with 10 fangs or something. But nope, it was a goblin. I don't even think it did damage. It just kind of existed. Yeah. Okay. Well, we win. Next task. Day 60. Day 69. It was time to take on the bosses that resided in some of the most powerful battle towers inside of the game. So I began preparing for what that might bring. There are boss battle towers inside of the End, the Nether, and the Overworld, and I wanted to take on the toughest ones and see what loot they had to offer. Day 70, I took on one of the easier battle towers, if you want to call it that was guarded by the Old Knight. Inside of this battle tower, I found way too many spawners that should not have existed, and some pretty epic loot. I battled my way through the hundreds of mobs that spawned, gathering up their XP, their souls, and their items. Day 71, I entered the next hardest dungeon, guarded by the Knight, who wields a sword that does 22 damage per attack hit. Inside of the dungeon, there were multiple spawners again, multiple iterations of chests, and a lot of loot to be had, and a lot of experience to be had. These are much better than roguelike dungeons, but they're also much more difficult and concentrated. Day 72, the Sea Guardian Battle Tower. Inside of this battle tower, we found a lot of silverfish spawners. I gotta say, these have gotta be the most annoying mobs inside of the game, but also a lot of valuable blocks. This seemed like a pretty much of a cakewalk until I got to the very top, and the Sea Guardians kept pushing me back down, and it was really difficult because I couldn't mine the spawner underwater. However, eventually the spawner actually expired. There was no boss atop this tower, but there was some pretty good loot. Day 73, I began my quest to kill Eva. Eva is the most powerful overworld boss inside of this hardcore dungeon mod pack expansion. It was time to take her on, and I took on her tower. However, whoever built this tower really didn't plan things out because it lit on fire and burned down the entire thing. But Eva would not escape me. I found her in the wild, and I slayed her with my dragon saber. She was dead, and it was time to enter the next dimension to kill the next battle tower bosses. Day 74. There's apparently an end tower with a boss that is more powerful than the Ender Dragon, as it commands him. So I went searching for it. Apparently it is ultra rare. On day 75, I continued my quest to find this battle tower, but with no luck. Day 76, I spent the rest of the day also looking for this battle tower, but again, with no luck. I figured at this point, with only this many days left, I should probably abandon this quest for now, and hunt for the ones inside of the Nether. The Nether Battle Tower. Although no boss atop, this tower is a menacing foe in and of itself. It has the most spawners I had seen yet, and was incredibly difficult. But I fought my way through it, gaining all the experience points. It's quite annoying because when you use your sword instead of a bow, your water goes down incredibly fast. I only brought so many water bottles with me, so a lot of the time I was fighting in sort of a grade atmosphere, but that was okay because we were still able to kill everything inside of the tower. Day 78, I wanted to build the biggest kingdom that had ever been known to RLCraft. Mine colonies was the way I was going to achieve this, but I knew I needed a lot more supplies, so I went on my way to find villages to steal their wood. Days 79 to 84, I pillaged and I stole all the wood I could find. I brought my shulker with me so I could store even more of it. Mine colonies requires a lot of wood to actually build the kingdom that you want, so I knew I'd better get it all in one go so I didn't have to come back every single time I wanted to build a new fortress. When I had gathered the supplies that I needed, I went back home to start building. I started clearing an area to put the main town hall that would be needed to start the colony. Day 85, I cleared enough brush and that man's house over there to actually place the town hall. Now I needed to wait for citizens to arrive. Not sure how they were going to climb their way up here, but I'm sure they'd make their way. Meanwhile, I wanted to go on a side quest and accomplish something else. Inside of RLCraft, there are runes that hide in shipwrecks and in different dungeons throughout the game. I wanted to gather these runes so I could make some of the most powerful items inside of the game. You can make explosion pickaxes that do 3x3 areas, or you can make armor that makes you more unkillable than dragon armor. I wanted these runes and I wanted them now, so I began my questing to find them. Day 91, after questing for runes, I arrived back home to find that my first settler had arrived. With enthusiasm, I ran over to greet him and I accidentally killed him. I'm sure more will spawn, right? To read the runes, I needed what's called a rune reader. To get that, I needed a bit more nether quartz, so I headed back into the nether. That was my mistake. While I was in the nether mining for quartz, some mobs shot fireballs at me. This wouldn't have been a big deal, except they hit my portal. I had no way to get back home. I spent day 92 looking for another fortress, as I knew I could find obsidian, but I needed a flint and steel to actually light a portal. Day 93, I finally found another fortress and I began looking for some iron. I found some in a chest, ran back outside, and got some gravel to make some flint. While doing this, mobs kept shooting at me. I was almost running out of thirst, so I could barely see. I was just able to construct it in time, light a portal that I'd found nearby, and I arrived back home. I found this cool little dungeon thing right as I arrived home, and you know me, so I took it out just to see what loot it had inside. Day 94, I started unlocking my runes to see what items they held behind their cascade. Day 95, I knew inside of the other dimension there was an ice dragon, and I really wanted an ice dragon as a pet, so I began my quest to go back and find it. It was quite a ways away from my portal, but I really wanted an ice dragon. Well, on my way, I found one of these 4-tower dungeons. I made sure to steal all the loot, and just passively walk by all these mobs that were attacking me with their weak stone swords. Ha, what noobs. Day 96, I stumbled upon the Ice Dragon Cave and I plunged right in. Here is the entire fight. Unfortunately, it was a guy, and he didn't drop an egg. What a sad, sorry excuse for dragon life. Day 97, I decided to visit another dimension. This dimension's actually in the base game of RLCraft as well. I have never gone to it because, well, it's not that exciting, but I decided to try and go to it anyway and see what bosses or dangerous mobs awaited. To make the portal, simply place a bed on top of 2 emerald blocks and surrounded by an assortment of skulls. Not quite sure who came up with this idea, but it works nonetheless. Once I was in the dimension, I began scouting around to see if I could see anything cool. Just a lot of buildings in a post-apocalyptic world, with a lot of weird mobs hanging around. I jumped down into one of the buildings to see if there's any loot, but alas, the chests were empty. Quite lackluster. Day 98, I had one more big thing I wanted to accomplish inside of RLCraft, but I needed sea serpent armor. To craft the armor, I already had the sea serpent scaled, but I needed mermaid scales. So I went out and attacked mermaids with full vengeance to steal their scales. The first one only dropped 1. Not quite sure what her deal was. The second one dropped 4. Yeah, take a lesson from that, Karen. Day 99, I began the day by putting some enchants on my new sea serpent armor that I just crafted. I crafted the purple kind because purple is a cool color, and I like being cool. Once I crafted the armor, I went to do the ultimate task, as you will now see. Uh-oh, don't worry. Oh. Stick. Stuck. Hello. There she. Yes, alright. Day 100. We still had one more big thing to do. As per tradition, we watched the sunset at the end of the day. One of my friends is posting an insane 100 days challenge that will knock your socks off like it's never been knocked off before. Make sure to stick around for that. Here's the clip.
Minecraft has dominated the video game industry because it keeps releasing new and exciting content that changes how people play the game. So today, we're going to explore all those amazing updates by trying to survive 100 days in hardcore, while updating the game every single day. This challenge is not going to be easy, because if I die even once, my world will disappear forever.
Thank you all for watching the RLCraft finale for 100 days. The next video we are going to be releasing depends on you. Yes, you. Go into my community section and vote. Whichever one gets the most votes is going to be the next video on the channel. We're going to absolutely obliterate it and survive 100 days. With that being said, though, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.